Number 12. So this is kind of a slow week for me on this side. I'm kind of more focused on the networking part, which I'll hear about in a second. This week is more so continuing with the web designer, continuing with the process of the project, and really articulating the vision. You know, I often used to see sites like, any social media platform, any site like Yelp, like Zillow, or any sort of site where they had a lot of content on it. And, I always used to criticize it and thinking, man, that whoever designed this was an idiot. But now having to do the web design and having to make something so scalable, but also have all the functionalities that are needed for what the goal is and what the vision of the company is, it's so fucking difficult. Like, words can't describe how mentally taxing it is to try and think of where to put everything. I always used to hear Henry Ford say the hardest thing to do is think, and that's why most people don't do it. And there was one day where I asked the universe, I was like, how is that possibly the hardest thing to do? There has to be something harder. No, that nothing comes close. Like, you just sit there and you stare at the screen and you just can't, like, at a certain point you're just staring. Like, you're good for the first whatever, and I'm sure I'll get better at it, but you're just staring at the screen at a certain point. You're like, dude, can I do something else? Can I just send messages? Can I be an SDR? Like, can I make a cold call? This is terrible. It's incredibly difficult, but that's why I also know that this effort that I'm putting in is going to make it incredibly rewarding in terms of, how it's going to help people, because there's going to be so much thought put in to each page, where each button goes, how it's designed, why the buttons are there, why it's needed. And we're gonna probably set up a study group type of thing where students will go through the functionality, give us feedback on it, and then we'll adapt and make necessary changes based off that feedback. So that's coming soon. That'll probably be a later video when we do that. But for now, it's the root part of it, right? I do think this will be the hardest part, because I think, you look at sites that are, up and running and are doing well with already a lot of content on there. I think it's a bit easier to make, little tiny changes, but when you're at the start and it's just an idea, and you have to put that idea into words and into a design that makes sense for what you're trying to do, it's so incredibly difficult. So I can't wait for, students to get on it, and then they nitpick and they tell us, okay, this is what I would think would be better, and then we can kind of decipher, why they think that, and then we can go from there. In other news, I've started to try to network with SDRs, account executives, and all the sorts on LinkedIn. Those of them that are, working in technology, enterprise software, that kind of nature. One, to kind of expand my network, obviously, but then two, also, it's like, yeah, my job is remote, and it's pretty easy, but could I get a better job? Could I get a job that pays more? And could I get a job where I could build better connections with more people that I could eventually bring on to Archi? And so while this isn't a direct, this isn't about Archi, this segment, but in a way it kind of is, because I'm developing me and my network and my bank account, right? So if I can get a better job with a bigger network, why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I seek it out? So at the moment right now, this is the first day I was doing it, is outreaching to, SDRs and account executives, to see what it's like to work at where they work at, and see if it's, a better fit, see if they pay more, and see if eventually it can turn into something. But yeah, that's kind of an update for that side of my life. Now, lastly, I think I might have mentioned this before, but I mean, it's worth mentioning again because, like I said, the kind of reason that I'm doing this is so that if someone wants to start a business, in 5, 10 years, they can go back and look at, okay, what are the things that this guy was doing, and this is where he ended up, wherever I ended up, right? And so if something's redundant and if I'm repeating it, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing because it just means that I'm very focused on it. So then it can show you that where that focus led me. So I'm doing the course of how to start a startup by Y Combinator. It's on YouTube. It's from like 2014. And the most recent one I just watched was about you got to make something your users love. So the most recent one I watched, and I can't remember the name, but it's episode 8, and he's talking about, what really struck with me is this team building, right? This guy had a very small team the entire time, and his company scaled up. He didn't raise that much money. He didn't really need to. And it was kind of striking to me that, here I am trying to get all these interns on board, but these people are so much more productive, and they spend a day on customer support, customer service, and they spend a half day off, like Friday they get a half day off, and they're still so much more productive than most other companies. And so that really strikes home point to me. It's about who you hire, not how many. And you're gonna say, yeah, no shit. But I genuinely believe, like, there's the story of the Spartans, right? The 300 Spartans, I think, is how many it was. But, they almost won that battle. There was a bunch of more manpower. There's a lot of war stories where there's much fewer people on one side, and they just completely demolished the other side. You look at the American Revolution, and yeah, we had home field advantage, but still, the biggest military superpower in the world gets shellacked by colonists they already oversee. And so if you think about business, it's basically war. And so it's not expanding the team as fast as possible or how it looks where you get to put blank number of employees on your company website. It's, do you have incredible communication? Is everyone on your team a killer? Are they being paid like a killer? And are they aware of the vision? And are they striving every day to make that vision come to fruition? And if you have really smart people all behind a purpose-driven vision, I think you could make more progress with 10% of the people that another company does that's, kind of just, throws the mission statement together and is kind of like, okay, communication's kind of lacking. It's like a game of telephone, right? So it's kind of a flex to keep it small. And so that was a big mindset shift for me. It's like, it's not about getting, all these interns, being all these people to help out. It's about getting the right people. Because firing is a pain in the ass, for one. So I think about that a lot now. And I was going to hire a bunch of sales interns to help outreach. But, I kind of am thinking now, like, do we really need to outreach to a bunch of students, or could we approach it in a different way where, yeah, I'm going to still have, marketing and still have social media. It's very important nowadays. But do we need a cold outreach team? I don't really know. I don't really think so anymore. I think I could do most of it myself. And I think that maybe I could put that attention and that, money, the energy into making the best product possible. Because then that'll lead to referrals and eventually more customers and more exponential growth than, an outreach team ever would have. Because if you focus on the average team, then it's just, it's you get X for Y. Like, it's always that input. But referrals, like, one person leads to two people lead to four. So if you can get the customers you have to tell other people about it, that is, I think, where you really, that's where you really hit the gold mine. So that's where I'm at. Talk soon.